Silence. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the new legislative session of the Lenawee County Board of Commissioners. This is the Rules and Appointments Committee, and by rules within the Board of Commissioners, the chairman of the board is in charge of this committee until such time as the appointments are made. So I will be hosting the meeting this morning, chairing the meeting. First, I'd ask for approval of the minutes of December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tillotson, supported by, who supported that? Was that Commissioner Martis? Additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. Currently, we have a listing in front of us. This is standing committee appointments. I've reviewed them with the vice chair. We've gone over them. We've made selections. They're in front of you. And so it's the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners with the appointments.
I move we adopt them as presented.
Support.
I have a motion to adopt as presented by Commissioner Martis, supported by Commissioner Blanco. Discussion. Commissioner Collins.
I just have an issue. I understand there was an individual taken off the health board, yet the health board wasn't consulted, nor was the commissioner, myself, who stepped
Commissioner,
on the health board.
Could I interrupt you a minute? That'll come under standing of the board appointments. I'll be back with you in a minute.
Okay.
So we're on standing committees. Any other discussion? Administrator Murphy.
I think it might be prudent just to mention for the public that there were a couple of the standing committees that have been removed. One was the Human Services Committee, and the other is going forward, if this is approved, rules and appointments will actually become more of an agenda item underneath the Personnel Ways and Means agenda. So I just wanted to bring those forward to be recognized.
Thank you, Administrator Murphy. I was going to bring that up. By the way, and we had the administrator has been in contact with each one of those departments that reported to Human Services in the past. And if they have something to present, they will be coming to the Board of Commissioners under special presentations in the future. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. Moving along, if you look at the dates of our meetings under the listing of the commissioners, there are scheduled, just for your attention, and you're aware of it, there's scheduled 3 meetings, night meetings, in 2025. They will be held at 6 p.m. in March, June, and September.
I'm sorry, are we skipping to the calendar?
No.
Go
These-
back to the previous page.
Did we have the calendar before that?
So under the standing committees, Jen.
Oh,
Page 2.
okay. Okay, what are we? Right, okay. So we're all set? Everyone's familiar with where we're at?
You added 3 additional meetings. Is that what I basically understand?
Okay.
3 night meetings.
Yeah, just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention.
Are they a call of the chair meeting? If there's something?
No, they're actually scheduled for 2025. Okay.
Jim?
Commissioner Tillotson,
So we're really gonna have 15 meetings and not 12.
correct.
Okay, very good.
Okay,
I guess I would just like to say that I think that's all right because there seems to be some interest in night meetings. It'll be a good trial to find out whether we're interested or whether we're not. So if you don't have any, they'll always be interested.
correct. Thank you, and I appreciate that. Commissioner Martis.
I would echo Commissioner Tillotson's comments, and I would say to the folks who but really wanted evening meetings, here's your chance to show that it's something you're interested in. And I think if we see there's little or no interest, then we can certainly say we tried.
Any other discussion versus on our meetings?
No, I just, for those of us who've been around a while, we did this trial and error once already, and we'll do it again. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But we came and the only thing we did was incur overtime for employees to be here. Nobody came. So we'll try it again.
Okay, moving along, board appointments. Again, as proposed in your packet, and Commissioner Collins.
Well, as I said, this individual was on the Health Department. In fact, he was the chairman of the Health Department and had served in that committee for many years. And most recently, at the last Health Department meeting, the Health Department board rather, voted to appoint him as chair with the approval of this board. I'm wondering why it was removed.
I appreciate that comment. So, you know, it's always good to get fresh people coming in here and being part of county government. And that's what we're kind of taking a look at. We're going to be looking at all of those throughout the year so that we make sure that we have fresh people coming on and new ideas coming in. So Commissioner Stimson.
I mean, with all due respect, that's malarkey. This is political appointments. You've taken 60 years of county commissioner experience and benched it. So you have people who know this government inside and out, who have wealth of knowledge about the historical aspect, and you gave it away to people who you wanted to appoint there. The victor goes the spoils, but that's what it is. So let's not try to suggest it's something other than that.
Commissioner Martis.
I would just point out that the person that's been recommended is a highly credentialed registered nurse with long experience in healthcare in Lenawee County and is obviously going to be very well suited to serve the public health needs of the people in this county.
Commissioner Collins.
So I assume then that this change was put in place before last week. It had to have been if there was a person already in the wings waiting to go in. But this person removed was well liked by the board, the health board, did an excellent job, and everybody on that board liked him and worked very well with him.
Commissioner Stimson.
This is the new transparency we're hearing about, Terry. This is how transparency looks with that group that's been calling for transparency.
I'll take exception with that,
You
Commissioner.
can take exception to it, but it's true.
I move that we adopt these recommendations as proposed.
I have a motion to adopt the proposed recommendations. Is there support?
Support.
We have support by Commissioner Blanco, motion by Commissioner Martis. Discussion. Is there any discussion, any further discussion? If not, would Mrs. Zubke please call the roll?
All right, Commissioner Daly,
Yes.
Commissioner Krasny,
Yes.
Commissioner Martis,
Yes.
Commissioner Stimson, Commissioner Tillotson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Dorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ongst,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
So
7 yeas, 2 nays, motion carries.
Positions adopted. Thank you. Veterans Affairs Executive Committee. We have 2 applicants. So are they here today? Okay, would Mr. Crockett please address the commission?
here.
Ted Crockett, I'm with Community Action Agency, a veteran. I've served helping the veterans of the community for probably 8 years now. I am oversee the SSVF program for homeless veterans that covers 6 counties. Just looking to help serve Lenawee County, our veterans, and the board here. Very familiar with Tammy, Sheldon, and everybody up there at the VA. And I think provided my resume and have support through the community, so looking to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Larry Smith. I've been in this community about 60 years. I've spent 23 years in the military, 15 down here. I've always been involved with the VA and taking care of people around this community.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Commissioner Martis.
I'll just say that you guys were brought before Rules and Appointment last month, which normally I chair. And of course, we don't know either of you gentlemen, and we weren't given a recommendation for just one, but 2. So it makes it very difficult for us to pick because you both seem like really outstanding folks. So I just want to make that comment up front.
Thank you, Commissioner Martis. Yes, and I just to add to that, I mean, we do have to pick one, but please stay in touch with us because we like the fact that you're interested, and there's always times when there'll be positions open in county government as we move ahead, and probably with this committee as well. So is there a motion to adopt one of these names?
I would move to adopt Mr. Crockett. While this is a very difficult decision, because both, I think, are well suited, Mr. Crockett is in a position that allows him to serve that board the best, I believe, based on his current occupation. And being on the advisory board for the veterans, I think he would have the opportunity to show the best thing for the veterans.
Thank you, Commissioner Collins. Is there support? We have support by Commissioner Martis. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Smith, for applying, and please keep in touch. So other business. Calendar. The calendar's there with the meeting dates on it. For your information, we already did the night meetings, but those are subject to change once the committees first meet, but as of now, that's when they're scheduled. We need to adopt the calendar.
As you review the calendar, you may notice that there are some notes at the bottom indicating there we have conflicts. So as an example, in January, there is a holiday when the Parks Commission is supposed to meet. The same holds true in February. And then in November, the Personnel Ways and Means Committee is scheduled for Veterans Day. So those are 3 notes that I wanted to point out that we will need to be rescheduling. So we can, if you're all here, those of you that will be sitting on the Parks Commission, if we have a date you would prefer to meet, otherwise we will reach out to you separate from this meeting to get that scheduled. And then going forward, we will need to find out what you would like to do in November. If you just want to reschedule Ways and Means, or if you would like to reschedule Ways and Means and BOC as a group to the following week. So those are some things to consider as we move forward. Do not have to be decided today. So if you want to adopt it as is, understanding that we may have some revisions, that's fine.
I move we adopt it as is.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Martis, supported by Commissioner Blanco to adopt the calendar for 2025, noting that there may be some changes as we move ahead. Discussion.
Just have a question.
Commissioner Martis.
And just, I'll throw it out. I suppose I could have discussed it with Carissa afterwards, but if there was any way these calendars in Outlook could be sent to us to be added to our calendars, it would save a lot of legwork on our end. So for what it's worth.
Thank you, Commissioner Martis. Anybody else? Commissioner Stimson.
You can subscribe to the calendars and directly put it into your own calendar. You don't have to annually menu. So you just got to know how to do that online. Okay. Thank you.
You're asking a lot for some of us.
2025. Email was, 30 years ago.
Any other business for rules and appointment? Public comment. Name and address, please.
Todd Gilman, Cambridge Township. I just wanted to say that, glad to see it starting off kind of contentious this year. But I would like to say the irony is not lost on me that Commissioner Stimson is calling out a lack of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comment? Commissioner comments? If not, a motion to adjourn rules and appointments would be in order.
So move.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Tillotson, supported by Commissioner Martis. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.
There'll be a short delay. I call this Personnel Ways and Means Committee meeting to order. First item of business is approval of minutes. I presume we've all had a chance to review them. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor and for approving these minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Next, we'll go to personnel business. Turn to Administrator Murphy for employment changes.
The employment changes report is in your packet. If you have any questions, I can try to answer those. Otherwise, we have no other personnel business.
Thank you. We will close this section of the meeting and move on to Ways and Means business. Administrator Murphy has our finance reports.
I'm going to take just a little bit longer doing the finance reports this month, partly because they are through December 31, which is reflective of all of your last year. Also, we do have 3 new commissioners on the board, and I want to give you a little bit of an opportunity to hear what these reports look like in greater detail. As we review these, just as for your information, anything on the revenue side that has a bracket means that revenue was more than budgeted. Then on the expense side, the bracket means that it was more than what was budgeted also. These reports do include the year-end AP budget adjustments that were recommended by the AP committee. Those will be gone over in a little bit more detail if you wish tomorrow at the BOC meeting. They are in your electronic packet as part of the minutes of that final AP meeting. These reports also include the year-end projected payroll that goes into 2025 that needs to be booked back to 2024. So that's the prelude to going into the finance report. So as we begin the general fund income statement, again, this is through December 31st of 2024. I want to point out on the second page of those reports that the budgeted amount of revenue is $37,981,000 after budget adjustments. The year-to-date actual is currently, as of December 31, is $36,861,000, which is about 97% of the revenue for general fund. On the expense side, as we go through the different organizational descriptions, I do want to come down to if you look on the far left side, the organization 260, which is child advocate, you will see that in the 4th column over, it says budget less year-to-date actual. You'll see the parentheses. These are things that you would look at to, if you had questions or concerns. And that is showing that that one is approximately $19,555 over budget. Now, there are a couple reasons for this. This is a partially grant-funded division, so we are waiting to receive those reimbursements back. In addition, there were some overall expenses that were not originally included in the budget. In this particular area, as well as in the public defender area, we had someone else that was originally doing the budget. That person did leave county employment, and so new staff was taking a stab at doing their budget. And so this was their first year. So we were a little bit under budget when we looked at the actual expenses that ended up being incurred. However, the division as a whole is fine. Moving on, I want to point out, it would be number 650. It says Jackson. So there's a collective group here that shows Hillsdale, Jackson, and then it says medical examiner. These are the three areas of the medical examiner's budget. As you know, we have a kind of a tri-county situation going on with the ME's office. And it's just a $340 overage, if you will, in expenditures anticipated right now as of 12/31. That could change as we go into the audit season and we start moving revenue and expenditures back and forth. But just wanted to point that one out, that overall, though, the medical examiner's budget as a whole is well within the budget that was anticipated. So we're going on to the last page of the general fund income statement to summarize your expense totals of $37,981,000 against your year-to-date actuals of $36,116,000, showing your expenses are at about 95% of what is budgeted. As we move on to the fund equity changes report, this is kind of a summary for our new commissioners of your general fund that I just outlined, as well as all of your non-general fund accounts, which ultimately you have authority over. So as a summary, the fund category general funds or governmental funds, we have the first fund type is called general fund. Again, revenues of $36,861,000 against year-to-date expenditures of $36,116,000. As we move down to the fund type special revenue funds, I do want to point out Fund 218. This is the Adult Drug Treatment Court. You will see to the far right-hand corner, the parentheses that I talked about before. This is a grant-related program. And so we are waiting for the revenues to come back in for that grant, which will right side those numbers right now. As we move down to Fund 254, which is Survey Remon, it is the same situation there. We are waiting for some grant fund reimbursements, which will take care of that deficit. Moving on to the next page. Fund 280. And for our new commissioners, you're going to see that this is kind of a common theme that you're going to hear me say, is you can see secondary road patrol is right now looking at about a $62,000 deficit. But again, we are waiting for expenditures to be reimbursed back through that grant program. The next one down is Fund 285, which are our ARPA funds. Right now, you're seeing the fund balance of about $2.9 million in the deficit. That's really not a deficit. What that is that's shown as unearned revenue, and we just need to make sure that we'll do an adjustment moving it to earned income. Those of you that are familiar with this project, you know that we had just over $19 million in ARPA funds, and we've been expending them down as we are required to do by the end of the year. The next one down is Fund 286, Veterans Service. We are again waiting for some grant reimbursements to come back there to clean that up. So for the fund type special revenue funds, you can see year-to-date revenues of $17,304,000 against year-to-date expenditures of $21,042,000. We'll now move on to the fund type debt service fund, where we have revenues of $1.8 million against expenditures of $1.9 million. As we move on to the fund type Capital Projects Fund, here we see revenues of just over $2.1 million against expenditures of $1.8 million. As we move on to the Capital Project Fund Special Assessment Districts, there's two here that I do want to highlight. The first one is Fund 802 Revolving Drain. For whatever reason, this fund has been carrying a negative balance of just over $2,000 for a little while now. So the finance team is researching this so that we can find a way to get that cleaned up. Also on Fund 824, this is the Rolland Woodstock Construction Project. That project is almost complete and we are expecting the last payment soon. So that should clean that up. So for your capital project funds, special assessment districts, you see revenue of just over 6.1 million against expenditures of 6.2 million. Overall, for the fund category general funds, we are seeing revenues as of December 31 at just over 64,300,000 against expenditures of 67,147,000. We'll now move on to what we call the proprietary funds. So under the enterprise funds, these are more of our business-like account or business-like funds. You can see year-to-date revenues of almost 31 million against year-to-date expenditures of 25,591,000. Moving on to the fund type internal service funds. You can see revenues of almost 616,000 against expenditures of 553,000. Overall, for your proprietary funds, you can see we have revenues year to date of 31,607,000 against expenditures of 26,144,000. Overall, when you add all of these funds together, you can see that we have had revenues as of December 31 of 91,930,000 against expenditures of 93,292,000, giving us an estimated fund balance of all funds of 99,395,000. If you had, now I just want to point out also, we are getting ready to go into the audit season. And so we will be making adjustments as we move forward. So the next 3 months, your finance reports will vary as we are making those adjustments. And those of you that have been on here for a while do understand that, but I wanted to point that out for our new commissioners. So if you've had any questions, I will try to answer those.
Commissioner Tillotson.
When you made your adjustments for year end in December, to make all everybody whole, do you know what the total dollars it took to do that?
Those are on our minutes for next month. I do believe I've got finance in the back of the room. Do either of you have those totals? I feel like one category was 900 and some thousand and the other one was over 1 million that we adjusted. Do you have those, Matt?
So we, we would add them to,
Those are included. Those are included here.
yes, but the two together, it took both of those to make everything whole.
Correct. One is referred through, the one I referred to is for general fund accounts where we moved everything around within general fund. And the other was the more in the non-general fund.
Okay.
For appropriations out of general fund to them.
Very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Administrator Murphy? If not, I would entertain a motion to place this report on file. Been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? If not, indicate your support by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item of business, we have a request from the sheriff's office. I'm sure you've seen it in your packet. It looks like the original intent, well, I guess Administrator Murphy can give us an update, or I don't mind, doing this, but the bottom line seems to be that they were pursuing a Chevy Silverado for $55,000, which turned out to be unavailable. Instead, they're substituting a Dodge Durango for $45,000. And the request is that we approve the purchase from LaFontaine for $45,000 as an alternate.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Purchase proceeds. Pull up my next agenda item. You have in your packet as well a copy of a proposed easement from Consumers Power. Administrator Murphy, you want to give us any background on this?
Yes, I will. So as part of the Maury Spear Campus renovation project, there is a need to bring in some additional power. Both this item and the next one are related to the same thing. So we need to bring in some additional power into the facilities. In order to do that, we are going to have, Consumers is going to have to cross over the county farm property and onto the Maury Spear Campus property. So as a result, they will need an easement to be able to do that. So attached in your packet is a copy of said easement. It has been reviewed and approved by Corporation Council. And the recommendation would be to recommend the board chairman sign the easement for electric facilities between Lenawee County and Consumers Energy for additional power at Maury Spear Campus.
Willing to entertain a motion to proceed? There a second?
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Commissioner Tillotson.
Has this land been, have we had a survey on it?
A survey? No, we had not done a survey.
And the reason I would ask that is down the road, might be 2 years, might be 20 years, whatever. There's gonna be a dispute because, oh gosh, we just, we own the land, so we'll just give it to them. We need the easement. I understand all that. But I really think that it should be surveyed and titled in some way so that we know that goes and stays with the new, although it's all owned by the same government. There's divisions within that government. And I have some concern that if we just kind of pass it by and say, yeah, that's all right, put your pole there. It's probably all right for the people we agreed to, but us 9 people are not gonna be here forever. Nobody is, nor is the people that work for Consumers. So I think as long as we have a survey team, that we should survey it. And as a legal matter, I don't know whether that land then needs to be transferred to that division. I'm just talking to get some discussion.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a complete drawing of the easement and a description, correct? So are you proposing that we stake that as well?
If I wanted that easement, I'd want it staked.
Well, at this point, we have a motion. I guess you can make a motion later. Are there other comments? Commissioner Stimson.
There's 2 concerns I have with the easement. One is very similar to what Commissioner Tillotson's indicating, is that the easement area as described in the easement agreement simply articulates a drawing which has no legal meets or bounds to it, with a 6-foot either side of where they're going to put the line. And that's what they're declaring to be the easement. But there's no requirement that they put a line specifically as drawn, because there isn't a way to define it on the ground itself. So that is where you would use a stake easement to define exactly where they're required to put that line. And you would get that legal description as part of the attached easement area. That would be another way of doing it. That would be cleaner than a drawing. The second is it's non-revocable. It's a permanent easement, meaning if for whatever reason in 100 years that facility no longer needs or exists, or who knows what, that still land is still unfortunately caught in an easement with Consumers and can't be sold. It reduces the value of that land because of that. Typically, you can put these easements in there that easement stays in existence until it's no longer used for that purpose. And so when the electrical lines are no longer being required to cross that line or that property in that direction, that easement then revokes or is revocable, depending on how you write it. So both of those would be concerns of mine as it relates to this, and they're easy fixes. It doesn't mean that I disagree with the need for an easement to bring power or anything of that nature. It doesn't mean I disagree with the second request that's going to be coming down. It just means that this could have been a little cleaner.
Those strike me as fair concerns. Administrator Murphy, how time sensitive is this? I mean, do they need to act immediately?
We do need to act fairly quickly to get the power to that area. Shannon's been working more, excuse me, Deputy Elliott has been working more closely with them, and I don't know if you have any comments.
It is somewhat time sensitive. In fact, we have people out there today starting to move operations, getting the transfer of the feeds and the transformers and things of that nature to come through, especially with lead times. It is somewhat time sensitive.
Commissioner Stimson, then Commissioner Tillotson.
Yeah, because of that nature, you can do it subject to I mean, the drawing is a drawing, but you can get a legal description that is the reflection of what that drawing is. You understand what I mean? And that can be done after the fact. So as long as we do it conditioned with that, I don't have any problem moving forward with it. And then I would want to remove that permanent piece that's part of the original easement at the top. And I would just want to, I'll make amendment when we're done discussing, probably to amend that for the continued life and existence of it being used for a power supply, something to that effect.
That's your amendment.
I will, when we're done talking, I'll make an amendment, but I think that adjusts the permanency issue, allows it to move forward, and we can clean up the legal description under Exhibit A or B or B with something better than a drawing that somebody put down there, because it's all based on structures that may change. You know, the roads move over the time. If you've ever litigated real estate around a lake, the road was here, now it's here, and 100 years ago it was over there. And so everything being based off of where the road was, when you start counting out 30 feet, changes where the lines are. And so I generally like meets and bounds descriptions because it's just cleaner.
I'm going to take Commissioner Tillotson, then I'll ask Council Galuli to offer comment, and then I'll go to Commissioner Van Dorn.
Hey, yeah, in our discussion here, we talk about the need for that. And in the easement, and we find this more in rural farmland type situations, where there's an easement for the need, but when the need is done, the easements should go away. So there's different types of easements. I'm certainly not a lawyer, but I've been around that a lot. Sometimes it isn't. It's where you're at a certain time that you learn these things. And we have a situation on a farm that I own where they have an easement, okay? As long as they have a need to serve an area. Now they don't serve the area. Let's say they're coming from the northwest to the southeast to about a half a mile. Now they've decided to come from the southwest to the northeast and give this guy more service because he has a commercial. So he needs 440 instead of 220. Because of that, this half mile that goes across the farm is really, they're not using it. So that easement should not exist any longer. And you say, well, why does that really matter? It matters because 40 years ago, nobody would have ever thought about putting an irrigation system across the field. Today, we think about irrigation, them poles in that easement are in our way and should no longer be a part of it. So it can get quite difficult And I'm not trying to be difficult today. I just want to share that with you. So thank you.
Well, these are fair questions as we're trying to pursue the public interest. So I appreciate all these thoughts. Counselor Galuli.
Thank you. The proposed easement is a typical easement that's used for these types of scenarios, protects the interests of the county, protects the interests of consumers' energy. I would suggest that a post-install survey, if the county would like to do that, would be appropriate after install. That could be incorporated into a scale drawing, so to speak. We could then approach consumers and ask that that be attached as addendum to the easement. In the event of future non-need of the easement, so to speak, that's usually pretty easily taken care of. If the easement is no longer needed, our experience is that most public service providers will dispense with the easement. If that's not able to be done, it's a pretty easy court challenge, so to speak, but that's down the road. That can be accomplished, but instead of holding up the process, which no one's suggesting, I would recommend approving the easement. If you want, consider a post-installation survey of the property, then approach consumers to incorporate that post-install survey into a well-defined exhibit to the easement.
Commissioner Van Doren.
That was my question. Sorry, that was my question is, if that's going to delay the process, because I take it these costs will all be our cost, which I understand. So, and they aren't going to be that much. So, I agree. And I think Commissioner Collins and I can, talk about, not having, easements and not having surveys, because we're running through that with the Drain Commission right now. We have a $100,000 building sitting over the top of a drain that was never taken care of. So I think those are all good points. I'm glad they were brought forward.
Commissioner Stimson, do you have any follow-up comments?
I don't care which way. I mean, Galuli, or I should say, Mr. Galuli, is fine with whether we do it post agreement or not, as long as it gets incorporated and we follow up on it. The question, I've had a little different experience with Consumers Energy, maybe in their agreement post of abandonment of easements, and that's my biggest concern. I've also never seen a situation where they're disagreeable about, so long as they have no longer got a use for the easement, the revocation of that happening automatically rather than having to bring an entire court action to remove it. So my amendment, if I make a motion to amend, would only be to the fact that we change it from a permanent easement to a continued use and requirement easement language that can be decided by Mr. Galuli, rather than it's really the first sentence of the easement. If I can get there, I'm sorry. A permanent easement to enter owner's land, that's the language that really needs to be altered to allow it for the permanent ability, so long as the use is required. And that means continual supply of power through that particular area. And then the other part being the amendment to require the meets and bounds description after the fact. Once they've installed, they'll put it at 6 feet either side of where it's installed, and then they give us the legal description. You're talking about a few $100 for a stake.
Counselor Galuli, can that be done in a fashion that doesn't gum up the works, if you will?
I can get something done in short order for Deputy Administrator Elliott to present to Consumers Energy. Yes, I may not be able to get to it until tomorrow, but we can draw something up, assuming they'll continue to work with that understanding that here's the proposed change that's going to be made. Changes.
We have a motion on the floor.
Amendment.
So that was an amendment then, Commissioner
It was.
Stimson? Okay, so it's been moved and supported that we amend the original motion. Is there any further discussion? If not, everybody in support of this amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillotson dissents. Now we go back to our initial motion. Is there any further discussion on the initial motion? If not, then I would, I guess, let's take a vote then. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The matter is resolved. Thank you. It was a very productive discussion. And then we have the matter of the invoice from aforementioned utility. Administrator Murphy. Been moved to approve. Is there a second? Support. It's been moved and second. Any discussions on the invoice? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Matter carries. We have any other items ahead of us? Is there any work to do on these other agenda items? Any additional items for the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would move now to public comment. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to commissioner comment. Is there any commissioner comment? I see no commissioner comment. I'd entertain an motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved and supported unanimously. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.